Hello, everyone. Thank you for your interest in the 4-HBC Veterinary Science Project. We'll discuss the ins and outs of the project units, experiences from leaders and members who have piloted the program, and how you can join. As we know, many 4-H members have a keen interest in animal care, and they can gain hands-on experience through a variety of animal projects, including KB, rabbit, dog, horse, llama, beef, dairy, sheep, goat, and poultry. How is the 4-H Veterinary Science Project different? The 4-H Veterinary Science Project is a great option for members who want to explore their knowledge of animal health. Perhaps they want to explore animal health for multiple species. They have an interest in animal health and husbandry, but don't have the ability to participate in a live animal project. And or they have an interest in exploring careers in an animal health related field. The 4-H Veterinary Science Project has 3 units. We have Introduction to Animal Health for ages 9 to 19, Preparing for a Career in Animal Health ages 13 to 19, and Senior Management ages 13 to 21. Diving a little bit more into Unit 1, the Introduction to Animal Health, this unit is designed for members to explore the basic body systems, physiology, and care of animals. Members are to choose at least 5 different species to explore through hands-on activities, including practicing safe restraints and taking vital signs. For achievement, members must deliver a 3 to 5 minute showmanship presentation. This presentation is on a topic related to a specific species, body system, or health condition, and it must include the use of a visual aid. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And second, they need to complete the veterinary science record book, including a record of animal health activities completed, as well as body condition comparisons. Here are some examples of visual aids used in Unit 1 by a club that piloted the project in 2024. So on the left here, you'll see a presentation done on bloat. So they have an educational display board, as well as a few examples of feedstuffs in the front there. In the middle, there's a display board on bovine respiratory disease. And to supplement their presentation, they also had a um, model of lungs made out of Rice Krispie treats. So that's what you see on the far right. So visual aids can include PowerPoint presentations, display boards, models, experiments, etc. There are some pages in the record book specific to Unit 1. These will say right under the heading, applicable to Unit 1, Introduction to Animal Health only. So included in this section is 5 pages for members to record their exploration on specific species, including how they practice restraints and taking vital signs, as well as body condition scoring comparisons. For Unit 2, Preparing for a Career in Animal Health, this unit is designed for members to explore careers in veterinary medicine or other animal health related fields. Members will learn about the various veterinary or animal care procedures, emerging technologies, and explore education and career opportunities in the field. Members must be at least 13 years old at the beginning of the project year to complete Unit 2. For achievement, members must complete 10 hours of job shadowing, and this can be completed as a group or individual activity. Members may shadow 1 or more professionals to complete the 10 hours. They must also deliver a 5 to 7 minute showmanship presentation, which includes a summary of their job shadow experience and their proposed personal pathway to entering a career in animal health. This presentation must also include the use of a visual aid. And lastly, they must complete the veterinary science record book, including pages specific to Unit 2, which are the record of the interviews with at least 2 professionals in an animal health related field, as well as their job shadow experience. Just a quick note on insurance. Job shadowing that takes place under the supervision of 2 4-H leaders or 1 4-H leader and 1 screen volunteer is considered a sanctioned 4-H activity and is therefore covered by 4-H insurance. Any independent job shadowing done is considered homework, much like working with a 4-H livestock project outside of a 4-H project meeting. Any homework activities are unsanctioned and therefore they're not eligible for 4-H insurance coverage. So in these cases, the safety and supervision of the 4-H members completing independent job shadowing is the responsibility of their parent or guardian. So what are some possible careers? So I think the first and most obvious is veterinarian, and there are different types of veterinarians. There are clinical, pathologists, public health veterinarians, and others. There are registered veterinary technicians or RVTs, veterinary assistants, animal nutritionists, meat inspectors, artificial insemination technicians for cattle, farriers or hoof trimmers, zookeepers, marine biologists, embryologists, and many more. So 4-H members have the opportunity to interview and shadow quite a variety of careers, and it allows them to explore different careers year over year if they decide to retake Unit 2. So we talked a little bit about a personal pathway. What does that actually look like? So this would include your career goals and aspirations, any educational requirements needed to get to that goal, and professional development plan. So how are you actually going to get there? So here are some examples of presentations done for Unit 2 by a club that piloted the project. So on the far left, you'll see there's a presentation on Feed to Succeed, which was shadowing a dairy nutritionist. In the center, we have a member that talked about her personal pathway to becoming a veterinarian. And on the far right, we have a young member who talked about her job shadow experience and career pathway to becoming a meat inspector. So all really, really neat. And actually the young member on the right that talked about becoming a meat inspector actually got to present at the National Agricultural Excellence Conference in Abbotsford this November. And so that's really great to see these 4-H members in the Vet Science Project getting to talk to such a big group of folks about their career goals. Just like Unit 1, there's a few pages in the record book specific to Unit 2, and you'll see again just below the heading in the red circle there, it will tell you specifically what these pages are, and this would be the record of interviews as well as the record of job shadowing. And just a quick update for you, the Veterinary Science Project resources will be ready to go at the end of December. And any of the exam questions, so both junior proficiency and the provincial senior skill exams, will be ready to go in the new year. I'd like us to kind of talk about Chloe and Yana's experience with the Vet Science Project and how that went. So maybe Chloe, do you want to start us off and talk about your experience with the Vet Science Project, perhaps what units you did, and your favorite experience or what activities you participated in?
Yeah, that sounds great. So I can participated in the unit 2, and this was preparing for a career in veterinary science. This unit offered members a look into veterinary science or other animal health related field as a career. So I completed a minimum of 10 hours shadowing a vet, and this was with Dr. Patton. I also delivered a 3 to 5 minute presentation at Achievement Day on my personal pathway to entering a career in veterinary science. And I also completed a veterinary science record book. So some of the things I learned, we were given an amazing opportunity to participate in 5 workshops. They were held once a month for a couple of hours. Each session was led by a veterinarian who specialized in that certain animal. As an example, we did our beef workshop with Dr. Jane, and we first received a new stethoscope from Jane, which was amazing. Then we practiced taking temperatures on steers as well as heifers. We watched demonstrations on how to give medication through a bolus tube. Then we moved on to dog with Dr. Stephen Wood, and we learned how to read x-rays there. We moved on to sheep with Dr. Trudy Leishman. She gave us hands-on opportunities on how to trim the sheep's hooves and how to safely flip them. And we actually got to flip one of the big rams, which was a really fun strength test for us. And we used a flip table as well as just in the barn. And as well as with our new thermometers, we checked the sheep's temperature. For our horse segment with Dr. Patton, he toured us through his incredible equine facility, showing their equine standing MRI machine and the 6-bay surgical suite. We met their patients and learned about different diseases and injuries. And we practiced listening to horses' hearts, which was really cool, with our stethoscopes. It was neat to see that they have over 220 staff, such as vet techs, assistants, veterinarians, surgeons, chiropractics, and assistants. And everyone, they were all bonded together as a team, and the way they worked was just, it was so mesmerizing because it just flowed all together. Lastly, we did poultry at Canadian Poultry Constitution with Dr. Victoria Bowles. We dissected chickens. Now, this was an amazing opportunity. It was really, really cool. And we learned about birds and interesting adaptation to flight and how eggs form. But one of the most important aspects of what I learned was through preparing and giving a presentation. This is what I learned was through preparing and giving a presentation at Achievement Day. It gave me a pathway for pursuing a career in veterinary science. So I'll just mention what my favorite activity I completed in the veterinary science was. One of the things that solidified the course for my career navigation was the 100+ hours I spent shadowing with
10.
Dr. Patton. Sorry, 10 hours. He and his assistant Alana took me on the road to medical emergencies, from the field surgeries to the medical euthanasia to the financial hardships and decisions pet owners must make. The highlights being asked to scrub in for a surgery at the end. I was lucky enough to have 50 hours shadowing. So I scrubbed in on an open castration, which was amazing, just getting that opportunity. And if I were to do this vet science project again, I would definitely like to do Unit 3 on senior management.
Cool. That's awesome. I love the chicken part. I think that's an awesome opportunity because it wasn't really highlighted in the pilot year in the manual. So that was great that your club was able to do something like that and look at the avian species because, as you know, they're quite a bit different than some of the mammalian species that we're used to looking at. Um, Really cool. What would you do as your senior management project? Do you know?
No, honestly, I'm not exactly sure. I'm still trying to form all that.
You just want to explore further. That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yana, do you have any tips or tricks for any leaders that are looking to take on the Vet Science Project?
Yeah, so I had 3 clubs in the district to participate, and it's certainly a good idea to combine your resources. We had so from another club we got the poultry opportunity because she knew somebody there. I know a horse and a beef vet myself, and we had others that knew about a dog veterinarian, was her husband. That makes it much easier. The hardest part, I think, is finding veterinarians to use their uh, time to do that. They're very, very busy. It has to be usually on a weekend to accommodate our members, and they've given up their time, and they were all awesome in doing that.
Yes.
Yeah, that were my points. So rather than following the manual too closely, keep it simple, make it fun for the kids, keep it interesting, and keep it practical, rather than too much theory. They just want to have a glimpse into veterinary medicine, not necessarily end up veterinarians themselves at the end of the project.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip because there's a lot of resources in the manual. And I think it really does depend on the age of your club and where they're at and how many consecutive years you run the Vet Science Project. But as a new project, it's like, yeah, keep it fun, keep it simple, show members what options are out there in terms of veterinary medicine and animal health. I love that you guys had so much diversity in your project year, and I think that's what keeps members coming back. Sounds like Chloe's ready to take on senior management, which is exciting. Maybe you'll find some new tidbits that you didn't know either in the revamped member manual. So, yeah, there's lots of content in there. So it's kind of neat that you can take it and make it different every year because there's so much to work off of, which is cool. I love that you guys as a club used shared resources as well, just to get everybody out there. I know it was hard to get everybody job shadow opportunities and all of those things, and some other pilot clubs struggled with that as well. So doing things in a group really helps on that front as well. Claire, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I guess I had some comments. I'm pleased that you're revamping the manual, or I guess you're writing the manual and potentially the record book, because the one that I was sent that I looked at, I found it very academically heavy. And in theory, I do know all that information that's in there, but there's no way that I want to readdress it, go over it, and remember which nerve connects to what. Like it was way too much for like a grade 12 biology student or a university level student. I just thought it was would turn kids off versus doing something very practical, like going out to a poultry processing place or anything, for sure. So that sounds like a much more approachable way to do things. And I think the kids learn a lot more when they see it live and they're participating rather than just reading about it. And
Yeah.
I'd like to ask a question. Chloe, how old are you?
I'm 16.
Okay, well, I must say you are a prime example of what 4-H does for kids, because you present yourself very well. So thank you for telling us about what your year was like.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments, Claire. And I think the key too is the manual for vet science is different than the species specific manuals in that it's really meant to just be, it really is meant as just a resource. Like if you can plan the experiential learning for the members in group settings, I think the resource is more of a supplement to that, because you're right, it is too much. It's too much to bite off. So the resource itself is still organized by body system. So it's still like very content heavy, but I've tried to do a better job of adding information for different species so that members are able to find some species comparisons within the manual as well. Because I think the old manual didn't have as much of that because, as Yana was saying, it was adapted from Ontario and from some of the states. So the Ontario one was pretty goat heavy. And um, I think that's all I need to say is it was goat heavy. So even just like adding, I added some more avian examples in because like avian reproduction is obviously very different than mammalian and things like that. So there's ways to explore those body systems by species within the manual, but there's still a lot of content. So you want to make sure as a leader that you're kind of extrapolating some of that stuff and just making it more interesting for them. And I think doing it by species is what will make it more fun for them, because most will have been used to doing maybe one livestock project and maybe don't know all the ins and outs of the other species out there.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit interesting to see what would happen in a second year. So we went through all the species, but if members do it for 2 years in a row, do you do the same thing? Or how do you change it and make it or adapt it for both new members to the project and the ones that have been there already? Yeah, and like you had in the record book, that's pretty much what we did. We did restraint of each species. We did where do you listen? You also listen to the ruminant animals, not just the heart and lungs. So what sounds normal? Encouraging the kids to listen and look at as many animals as they can at home on the farm. And the ones we presented just to see what is normal so that they can then recognize when their animal is sick. We had some simple instrumentation, like for dehorning, for bloat, for medications, blood drawing. We had the common diseases for each species, so they know a little bit how to recognize bloat in a cow, or the importance of manure. And
That's awesome. Ronnie and Chloe, go ahead.
I just had a couple of things. What I can say from doing that pilot with Jane, or just being on the periphery, was for our members at Glen Valley and Langley Beef, they were very interested, and they were captured audience for sure. There wasn't too much information where it turned them away, or on a deaf ear. They were always interested for sure. And the hands-on aspect was, fabulous, and then the Jane actually getting them all stethoscopes. They really felt, I could see they felt the value in that, and a lot of buy-in. It was really a great idea. Um, I just wanted to, I like how you said that this project, and this is how I might sell it at Lower North Thompson, is for the kids that don't have livestock, because we've got a lot of non-livestock kids here as well. And I really like that aspect of it. So that's a selling point for sure. I just have one question, please, about the rule of two. I don't think I quite understood that slide, or was trying to read and listen at the same time. Could you just do a quick summary of that? If the kids are part of the 4-H project, so as an example, just because it's easier that way, so Chloe was shadowing with Dr. Patton and his assistant Alana at all times. Is that allowed, or do we have to have a parent there as well?
No, that's allowed. It would just be so if you're in a group setting, so say like when they all went to see Victoria Bowes present on the poultry, as long as there's still if there's two 4-H leaders or a 4-H leader and a screen volunteer, that would be covered under insurance still. So if something were to happen, you're still covered under the like incident insurance.
Right. Okay.
Whereas if Chloe were to go on a ride along by herself, which is or with Patton, um, then that would be like no different than her working with her 4-H project at home. So it'd be considered like 4-H homework or homework. So then it's up to you as her guardian to make sure that she's safe in
Okay.
doing that. Yes. So it
Okay.
doesn't mean that you need to go. It just know that you're liable for
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
then on that note too, we talked about like having letters that go out that members can take with them when trying to find a job shadow. Because I
Mm.
know, and Claire, for your knowledge, I know that there was some clubs, and depending on where they were within the province, had a hard time for their members under 16 to find job shadow, just because of liability and whatnot. So like SPCA, for example, I don't think lets someone job shadow under 16. And what
Okay.
I would recommend when you have those scenarios where there's members having a hard time is to do those group activities, because those can still count as job shadow hours and they can be done as a group. So just keep that in mind. Like if a veterinarian or an animal health professional is willing to come to you as a group to do a demo or or a talk or things like that, right? Then that's okay too, because there's different ways to skin a cat in this scenario, and just because of the age range and what opportunities are available, we felt that that was probably the best way to approach.
Yeah, that's good information.
Yeah.
I think we were told that this is not part of the job shadowing, that's separate. And yes, the insurance question did come up as well. I think it's unrealistic to think that a leader and a screened volunteer will both be in the veterinary clinic while somebody job shadows. Yeah, maybe something that could be considered is having a form that kids can give to the veterinarian, absolving them from any responsibility or liability in that case. Because yes, some veterinarians ask for it.
Yes. Yeah, Claire, go ahead.
I have a question about communication events like public speaking, ed boards, and demos. Is it expected that the vet science kids would still participate in that as a club, or like as like any other club, I mean?
Yeah. So it's no different than any other project where there's still a
Okay.
communications and judging component and whatnot.
If the member chooses to do an ed board as their final presentation for achievement, can they use that same ed board earlier in the year for the ed board communication? Or does it have to be distinct?
No, it can be the same one.
Okay.
Yeah, and just know that they still have to do the showmanship presentation, like they still have to do the oral presentation. It just has to include a visual aid. So the visual aid, it doesn't have to be an ed board, but if they chose to do an ed board, they're welcome to use the ed board for other purposes. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And they were one that had a little bit of a harder time finding the job shadow opportunities. So they ended up doing a lot of stuff virtually. Like they found veterinarians and other webinars, like pre-recorded webinars. And then they also had some folks join virtually. And then they found, I believe, some like online courses of like zoologists and whatnot that would do talks.
Mm.
So they did it a little bit differently. They also had local veterinarians come out and talk about castration and that sort of thing, but they approached it completely as a group. So very similar to what Langley did, but they didn't have the opportunity like Chloe to do individual job shadows just because they had a harder time getting.
Smart idea to do it virtually and do the courses.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was great. Yeah, it was
very
really
good.
cool. And it's a good way to get like wildlife or marine biology
Yeah.
or
Mm.
just kind of those more abstract ones that we don't think of from the 4-H perspective sometimes. So I thought that was cool. I think they had one from the San Diego Zoo.
Nice.
I think it might have been a pre-recorded webinar. I think I'd have to look back, but I thought that was kind of neat that they took a bit different of approach. And I was glad to see that they still participated when they had a hard time. They didn't
Yeah.
just give up, they pivoted, just similar to what Langley did too. Just a little bit of a pivot to get everybody the experience and make it more fun.
And I
Good.
don't know, Ronnie, if it was you who told me about that, but I believe there are some spots opened up at Veterinary Sciences for kids that did, I think, 1,000 volunteer hours in a large animal or industry veterinarian practice, just to try to get more large animal students into the program. So this project could be a good gateway to contact a veterinarian, and if you get along, then just continue on and get your volunteer hours, and get a spot that way that maybe you otherwise wouldn't get.
That's a great point. And another great point is getting hours not just at a small animal clinic, like just the diversity, just
You
getting some
make a
diverse experience as well.
Yeah, you make a very good point. Some of our members did both. They did 5 hours small animals and 5 hours large animal practice. And yeah, just completely different experience that they had, and that can point them in the right direction for their pathway.
When you are applying, they do want to know that you have informed yourself about what being a vet's all about. So this is fantastic. They don't want somebody who thinks that they're going to play with puppies all day, because you
Yeah.
just don't. And especially in species beyond dogs and cats. So going to the horses with the shadow that you did, and obviously it looks like you've got beef cattle by your background there. So when you, it's a few years, yeah, but when you come to the interview, the application and interview process, having 4-H is going to give you a leg up, and being more than just a horse crazy girl will give you a leg up. And I say horse crazy girl because I was one, and I'm a horse club leader. So I say that a little bit facetiously, but being well rounded within animal species is a good idea. And also outside of animal species. If you play soccer, if you play a musical instrument, if you dance, keep that up.
So if you think the Veterinary Science Project sounds fun and you're looking forward to participating, how can you register? Clubs need to send a list of interested leaders and members to Chip at the 4HBC office, and her email is admin@4hbc.ca. The list that you should send to Chip should include your region, your district, your club, as well as your leader or leaders' names and email addresses, and the list of members, names, email addresses, and the project unit number they wish to complete. Any further questions regarding the Veterinary Science Project can come to myself, Jan Van Rijk, at jennifer.vanrijk@gov.bc.ca. Thanks so much, and we look forward to having you in the Vet Science Project.